Look, thank you, sir. Look, last night the Adelaide Hills Council met and undertook what was disappointing, foolish and, I think, a disgraceful decision that they will ignore the 95% of respondents to community consultation for the third time who said that they want to retain wards in the Adelaide Hills Council area. 95% of what I understand is in excess of 500 responses from the community opposed the abolition of wards, which the Adelaide Hills Council, 6 of the 12 councillors and the Mayor with his casting vote have decided they want to again go to report so that the Adelaide Hills community's views will be ignored once again. 95% out of more than 500 responses. This was after the Adelaide Hills community had been ignored twice previously, when again in excess of 90% of community consultation responses had been against the abolition of wards. On one of those occasions, we were looking at in excess of 600 or 700 responses, more than 90% of which were against the abolition of wards. And there are good reasons why people in those communities believe that wards should be retained. People in those communities that are not part of that central area where so many of the voters in the Adelaide Hills Council are, of course, concentrated, people in areas like Gumaraka, in areas like Kersbrook, which were formerly part of a different council area that was undertaken to those electors when their council merged and became part of the Adelaide Hills Councils, that they would retain local representation. They've been ignored. Hundreds of responses from those communities ignored. The fact is that 6 councillors have been listening to their communities, 6 councillors have been supporting the decisions of their communities, but unfortunately, once again, they've been the majority on council of the 6 other councillors and the Mayor have ignored them. This is disappointing, particularly because it undermines faith whenever the council is going to go to community consultation again. This is a matter on which I've spoken previously. The member for Carville has spoken previously. The member for Hyson, the member for Bragg and the member for Schubert have all spoken strongly against this council's desire. And of course, when the council made this decision only a few months ago, it went off to the Electoral Commission for action. And it turned out that they'd made a technical mistake and had to go back to community consultation again. The shocking thing is that that consultation having been undertaken, hundreds of responses having come in against the abolition of wards, we're told now that they're going to consult with the community again in the coming weeks before the council will make a final decision that will be going to the Electoral Commission for final approval. And so I make this call. I asked questions of the Minister for Local Government about this the last time the council decided to abolish the wards, and I asked him if he'd use his considerable powers to intervene. He gave a non-committal answer, suggesting that he wasn't aware of the issue. But I call on the Minister for Local Government now to look at what powers he can use to make sure that the considerations, the wishes, the demands of the overwhelming majority of the community in the Adelaide Hills Council area are taken seriously. And there's another thing that can happen. There's another step that can be taken, and this is an opportunity for indeed all members of the Adelaide Hills community. There's a number of them on Facebook already who are expressing their anger and their concern. There are Facebook groups expressing anger and concern, from the Morialta Residents Association to the other coalitions having their voice heard on Facebook. But they can also have their voice heard by going directly to those councillors. All of those councillors who claim that they are representing their community's interests, I don't think they're doing that, but they have an opportunity, the members of those communities have an opportunity to have their voices heard. Contact their councillors directly. And I would encourage all members, all residents in the Adelaide Hills communities to contact those councillors directly, to make them understand that before this comes to a final vote, either in 2 weeks' time or 4 weeks' time, when the report from the council staff they've been instructed to report comes through, make their voices heard. I know that the member for Newland, some of his electorate contains a bit of the northern part of the Adelaide Hills, and of course he did, in fact, I note, make some representations to the council himself. And that's to be applauded. It would have been easy for him to go down the road from his house in Bridgewater to get to the Adelaide Hills Council and make those representations, but he can make his voice heard. The member for Waite, of course, is a member of the residents in the Hyson electorate. He can make his voice heard. I encourage them all to do that, as I encourage all members of the community. I know that all of the Liberal members who represent represent these areas, who continue to live and be part of these communities, will make their voices heard. I've discussed this issue with the Mayor. I've discussed this issue with councillors. I'm very disappointed that they continue to ignore the wishes of the majority of the electors in their areas, and I urge all community members to contact those councillors, urge them to overturn their decision from last night. There is one more chance, the member for Newland, I can inform you, there is one more chance for councillors to reverse their decision, and I urge councillors to do so.